So tell me about the event.
Um, so this was Sunday morning. We were texting, and I something I noticed. I began to notice in myself and Karen and you and anyone that it comes a point when you're trying to make a point, and all of a sudden that point is just gone. A thought is just gone, and it's usually when you get in really good discussions, and then all of a sudden the thought eventually does come back. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, you know, it's like the forgotten thought while speaking is crossing barriers. It's like the neurons need to work harder to connect transmission. And then Karen said, maybe we enter another dimension and we cannot retain that precise moment of thought because of the 3D density. And I thought, well, yeah, then maybe it allows the neurons to come into play and make their transition. So all of a sudden the thought comes back, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. I find that that happens quite often in sessions um, where we lose sort of time, a sense of time, and we go into a different dimension. We had this the other day with a beautiful client. Her and I assumed that that session was about 15 minutes long, and it was nearly an hour. And we both were like, how did that time go? And
Yeah.
it was surreal. It was a beautiful, magical moment. But you know, she was asking questions, and even she lost track of time. It was so profound. I fully agree with you. It must be we, you know, you were experiencing time different because we're consciously in a different dimension concept. I'm not too sure, but I love it. It's amazing when it happens.
Yeah. And then I thought,
You're
go. I'm sorry. And then I thought, mate, this is actually, we're breaking through 3D while in 3D.
Mm. Yeah, that's why we can't call it or retain it or it comes back. We can ask questions, but we'll get the answers back later in 3D that we can cope with. But often we get a lot of higher information, but we can't retain it because it's the answers to the key of the personal experiences we're needing to master.
Right. And then my thoughts were, and we both, Karen and I agree with this, and we are the ground crew. We are the galactical beings in human suits as the ground crew here. I didn't think so before, but it's definite to me now. And then Karen, this is what she said is, if all others people have the same connection as we do, we as a collective would have the job done.
Well, I think we're always connected to our higher selves and subconsciouses anyway when we're in the 3D. I think when we sort of slip into that forgetful space and then come back into 3D, we have obviously embodied our subconscious or our higher selves or parallel lives or whatever. But it seems like while I would love to be able to say, yeah, I think if we all transcended our mindsets out of 3D into 5D, that would be fantastic. We would physically shift. I actually think we need to have our bodies be able to be higher dimensional too, even though it's not a physical shift to new earth. It's only a small percentage. I think it's like 5 or 10% of our physical bodies merge away from the carbon-based bodies. So I don't quite know how all of that kind of is unfolding and how it all works. But what's really holding us back is our disrespect for our bodies, our disdain for our bodies, our ignoring of our bodies, and our bodies hold a lot of our trauma and our emotional states. And so when we are wanting that mindset of higher dimensional beings, which we naturally already are, we're still lagging something behind, and we have to balance our physical and clear and cleanse all that is blocking our physical bodies to be able to help. So yeah, I love where you're trying to get and us all together to be able to shift that mindset. But it's shifting to 5D was never about just expanding mindset. It was always physical and mental. And so I guess we need to release the lower energies that our bodies are holding as well.
Yes. Um, Most definitely.
But
I
it's
gonna
hard
try
though.
to.
It's definitely hard when we don't know if there's old traumas in our bodies from past lifetimes. So, it's not as easy as, uh, you know, it is a challenge definitely to get to that point. And I remember them saying today in a session, they have been telling us repetitively to love ourselves, love ourselves, love ourselves, love ourselves as an extension of self, and love others, blah 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 blah. We've all heard it, right? But they said we seem to have forgotten to love the body as well, because you're ignoring the vessel you're currently in. And so it was about that. We have to love all of ourselves. Love the skin we're in is what they repetitively said in a session today, which is something new, because they're realizing that that's kind of holding people up.
So when you talk about past lives and trauma there, and we also have different timelines that we are living. If this is our first visit to Earth, and we still have trauma in the body, then it has to be from the different timelines.
It's potentially this current lifetime. So our childhood, even just slipping over and jarring like landing on our bottoms when we're trying to learn how to walk. That jarring and that pressure and that impact on our bodies doesn't go anywhere. It stays within the body. As the body grows, you're developing highly pressurized bones throughout the body in certain areas. So all our small little accidents as kids actually stay with us. And so the more impacts you have, the more physical impacts you have in the front of your body, in your skeletal system, that's all your emotional trauma. All of the impacts you have from behind your body, so your back, your bum, your heel, when you fall over backwards, your skull, that is skeletal system in shock. And so your sensory shock, your body turns into sensory, your skeletal sensory system is on high alert. So when you have a car accident, for example, and you have to slam on your brakes and you have that seat belt, the impact from that seatbelt goes straight onto your collarbone, and that makes you extremely highly anxious afterwards, for years and years and years. Whereas if you got whiplash and you hit your head back onto the rest, and that's going to crash, put a lot of pressure on the back of your skull, you're going to get a lot of, your body's going to go into sensory shock. So, sorry, totally random, off topic, but the answer is, we think when our bruises and cuts and the insurance for our car crash pays out, it's all done and dusted, and there's no long-term effects. We may, go a bit slower, and maybe a little bit cautious on the roads. But the reality is, our body is still holding on to that trauma, and so not all trauma is emotional trauma. It is slipping over. It's having a boogie on a dance floor, a little bit tipsy, and doing the splits and slipping on slippery floors and landing on your butt. Those things that we think, oh wow, that was embarrassing, or those bruises healed, that still has major impact in the body. And so when you start having discord with the balance of your body, then you start using your body differently. Your center of balance changes. You start using your organs differently because you've got different strains. You need your whole body in perfect balance and harmony. And when you are in flight or fright mode because of the massive impact to your chest in a car accident, or a massive head injury at the back, you're sensing things so much differently. And we already naturally are afraid of predators in our natural DNA. So you're adding so much extra pressure onto your skeletal system, which is then impacting your emotional state. So I know that, I know from the past work I used to do, people would totally forget about the injuries as soon as they healed, and they would forget about what their original posture was, and they would walk differently because they impacted their sacrum. They don't understand how to release it, and then that adds more tension, and they start walking differently, and you start misusing your body. Your body is a beautiful machine. And so when you walk in harmony and balance, it's incredibly strong and powerful. When you have an impact that still makes those bones highly pressurized, you can't pick up your workload. You can't balance things properly. You feel like you've got a weaker leg or a stronger leg, and we go into comfort all the time. So we always rest on our highly pressurized bones because we're trying to equalize within our own body. I know it's got nothing to do with the metaphysics, but it's the physical that is also overlooked. And often when people have sore backs, they'll go to the chiropractor to try and be manipulated back in. And if it's a past life, you could spend every day at their chiropractor's office getting it popped back in. But if it's a physical lifetime where you've been speared in the back, by a mermaid. I know there is a woman listening whose husband's a chiropractor, and I am referring to her mermaid story where she was speared in the back and did die from that horrifically. But her husband, even though he is fantastic at his job, was not able to correct that because it wasn't in this lifetime. So, question I want to ask the higher self or the subconscious is, why are those last lifetimes impacting us so much more now when it's not this lifetime? Why is she supposed to remember being brutally speared and dying on a rock and physically not having the strength now in this lifetime? So it's the veil's so thin that we are remembering our pains from other physical lifetimes, especially the big trauma ones. And so for people who have first lifetimes, yes, it could be that you're tapping into other parallel lifetimes that you're currently in now, plus your childhood.
Thank you. I'm going to talk about something that still emotionally triggers me, and that's the breast cancer treatment that I went through. For the last 9 months, I've been, doing chemo, surgery, and I am totally cancer-free at the moment. When they did the last MRI before surgery, there was no tumor left at all. There was a little clip that I had in my body that was a marker to show where it was. And when they removed that during surgery, there's very little tissue there. They sent it off to pathology. There was no malignancy, and my blood, the markers in it, was in normal range. I got through that experience. I kind of removed myself and treated myself as a patient and not myself. And my dear friend Karen K, helped me tremendously. She was there every step of the way for me, and she kept me positive. I kept my vibrations up. I don't think I would have mastered that totally alone. And I also had a lot of help from the other side. I had a lot of support from the spiritual team, but I asked for help all the time. And I think that's a part of self-love too. You have to feel good enough to ask your spiritual team and your friends for help. You got to get past thinking that you're not good enough for people to help you. You got to reach out. And that was hard for me because I wasn't that person at all. I stood alone. I did everything alone. I accomplished things. They were my, goals. But this one, I had to give the reins to somebody else.
And do you want to share what your life purpose, one of your life purposes and experiences was in reference to that?
Yeah, I do. I think that was to, like I said, share. What I learned through that growth is letting others nurture me instead of me being the one in control all the time. I had to, like for my husband, he took over the emotional condition of our family, and he did a swell job, way better than I thought he would, because he has a short fuse sometimes, but he held it together, and he still is. it has changed him as well for the better. He's grown a lot too. And we bonded really well through a lot of it, even though I had a few breakdowns that I absolutely went batshit angry, crazy, and yelling and screaming. But those are things I had to release from my body, apparently. They had to get out of me. I did never ask why me. I kind of always knew that even though I was still in shock about what I was going through, I knew it was supposed to happen. And I handled it the best I could with a lot of help from friends and family and the spiritual team. I asked them every single time I went to the doctor to be there with me and support me, and they did. I could feel them there.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a one-on-one session, and they was absolutely there because they want to honor our free will, and when our free will is to ask for help and support, they are there, giving us the most care and love and support that we need, and without limiting our life experiences and contracts for the growth that we want. So I heard about. I'm going to say this, I heard about your breast cancer, and all of the other breast cancers I've had in sessions were because there was discord with their children, profoundly discord. Their children were not nurturing the mother anymore, and there was this very big challenge. So I don't want to make assumptions. So when in the quantum session, I heard that the purpose of it was a life contract, because you have been such an amazing warrior in your other lifetimes, that part of this lifetime you did need to overcome being vulnerable, and that is probably one of the most hardest roles to take, and I know that it was so against your nature to be served on versus serving, and I really appreciated learning that there was another purpose for the cancer, and the learning the family contract, that it was all of the aspects of it was, I mean, sounds weird, but it was so perfectly organized between you all when you were doing your life contracts, why, and the results of those experiences. And I mean, I just think while you had a lot of spiritual support, knowing after you'd already mastered it so beautifully, the actual purpose from the quantum session just did not take away your learning curve. And you did exactly what you wanted when you designed this life when you were the bigger beings.
I want to
Yeah.
add also that she is a badass. I mean, impressive. I was just able, I mean, we haven't seen each other physically in at least a year and a half. At least that. And it's all been by phone and text. That's it. Mostly phone, but by text at times, when, especially when she was doing her treatments, I would send her some loving energy through text, and I knew when she first found out that she had, we call it her friend, never called it the C word. We called it the friend. And it was more of, friends come into your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. And this one is for a reason. This is a contract. This is something that you already contracted out. It's nothing you did in your life to cause this. Nothing. No, this is a contract. And I believed at the beginning it was a contract for her to let herself be nurtured and become more spiritual, and to trust with her spirit team, more so. I mean, and she was, and then she learned how to do it, and it was awesome. Um, and then of course her family, her husband and her daughter, who was there physically. Um, every once in a while I would get a text from one of them, which is pretty cool to be included, and that made me happy. But even with any encouragement I could have given her, or any calls or anything, she still had to do this herself, and allow the help, allow the nurturing, allow the beings we can't see to feel them and learn how to feel them and find their presence. And she got so strong with that. It was amazing. Kick ass. That's all I want to add. I thought was awesome.
Yeah, if I could offer any advice to anybody going through traumatic situation, whether it be mental or physical, sometimes you just got to let go and allow the help to come through. And it's amazing what does come through.
How hard was it to let go? Like, how long did you hold on to that? I don't want to say.
I held on probably, I was 4 treatments in. And I would even argue with the doctors, like, I don't need this. I know it's gone. I can't feel it anymore, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you need to finish the regimen. We got to make sure. And I just finally, I guess, had an epiphany. Surrender, accept, go with the flow. And that's how I lived out the rest of the treatment. But I stayed positive. I didn't have very many blue days. I still was very active until they changed up the chemo medicine, and it was really harsh at the end. Those were really dark days. And I spent a lot of time in bed. I had to. And I'm still tired now. It takes months to get over this medicine. But I stay positive. I do.
Well, fantastic. I mean, I think there's some extremely, incredibly healthy people who are super fortunate to be here and cannot manage to keep positive. So I think that is, is a huge testament to, as Karen says, such a badass that you are.
Yes, she is. And I have to also add, during this whole time, before we found this out, I was having a lot of issues with my youngest daughter. And I kept saying I was letting go, but I hadn't truly. And it was some horrific experiences with my youngest daughter. At one point, I had to protect my parents from my youngest kid. And that happened last September. And then when my dad fell and broke his leg, and then I had to step in and leave work and spend time with my mom. That was all during this time with Karen too, and I just thought, well, I'm meant to not work so I can get more attention to you, Karen. And spend some time with my mom, I guess, although she didn't really talk. She had the Alzheimer's, and she knew who I was. There was no conversation. She used to have a gift of gab. And then I went to when it came down to last week's my mom's life, and then her passing. This was all during all this, and it was her going through her thing, me going through my thing, and there were some moments where I was kind of alone with my stuff, and she was kind of alone with her stuff, and that's really when we both needed to really reach out to our team. Because sometimes you're past human aid. You get past human aid, and you have to reach out to source, to bigger beings to help, because it gets just to a point where this human mind is not my friend right now. I need their direction of understanding.
Do you feel you independently grew individually when you had those moments sort of apart?
Oh, definitely. And I actually knew that's what was going on. I mean, we still talked, but we had very abbreviated conversations. Karen Kay was more in a dark night of the soul place. She had a lot to overcome, which she did gracefully. She's back, yay. But she had grieving for her mother, and she had other things come up that was unexpected that she had to deal with on top of that. So I just let her be. I didn't bother with any of my thoughts or any of my growth or what I thought, or I didn't do that to her. I just let her be. She had to go through hers alone, and went through, what growth I went through alone. And that growth was being independent.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been friends for 30 odd years at least, and you have truly got the most beautiful, unconditionally loving friendship. And you have such respect for each other that you don't smother each other when you are trying to go through the dark night of the soul or challenges. You know that space actually makes the person more independent to actually focus and do your inner work versus, you know, carrying them along. But I mean, sometimes we've got into that too. So you guys just know each other so intuitively that, you know, you, without even probably planning it or really being aware of what you do naturally, you are just supporting each other so perfectly. I love it.
Yeah.
I wish it was something that we all shared, all of us as a collective. Life would be different for everyone. I don't have anybody else on earth like I have her. I don't. She is not even my husband, and I are that close or that intimate. He doesn't know everything about me. I feel that Karen knows way more about me than anybody else on earth.
And I feel the same about Karen as well. We just, you know, I many times would run things by her before I ran it by my husband or anyone in my family or anyone else. You know,
And
I'm in, and this is a big thing. I also wanted to share this is I'm also in recovery. You know, I've been sober for 7 years, and you know, my husband. There's a big thing about recovery. Calling your sponsor whenever there's a big issue. Well, I called Karen, and you know, and I would call her and tell her some things because you know, we knew each other so well that she would either set me straight or whatever, or help me with it. And then he finally got it, and he was like, instead of saying, "Have you called your sponsor?" if I was having an issue, he would say, "Have you talked to Karen?" And I thought, "Oh, you're programmed." That's great. Love it.
because you're both, you know, you do have such a great connection to spirituality, and you both have got profound belief and faith. You know, you're doing your own independent work, which is so good. So the support you're giving each other is not, you would not be supporting each other with fluff. You know, I would imagine it would be very real support, what you probably need to hear from each other rather than not feeling comfortable to call each other out if they need to be called out, or you know what I mean? Is it that be the case?
Yeah, there is no fluff. There's never been fluff in our relationship ever.
It seems like it seems like a lot of friendships are fluff because no one wants to go into the deeps. And you guys have shared your spiritual experiences with channeling and dream interpretation. And that must have been really, I mean, you're so trustworthy of it and vulnerable to each other because of your spiritual connections and experiences, that when sometimes we can't find ourselves out of the maze that we've put ourselves in, needing and supporting and trusting someone to help guide us without, you know, piggybacking us out of that maze. I mean, that's really amazing to have that, because I do know a lot of people who have the fluff friendships when they really want the deep and meaningful and that direct, you know, not tough love, but honest love, you know. And sometimes we're really searching, why are we stuck, what is happening? And I can imagine you both being so loving towards each other, that you could be honest.
Yeah, when we've given our gratitude towards each other, it's probably because there's no fluff in there. It's because you know, when we first started working together, it was a very high maintenance. It's transportation, going with truck drivers and going down the road and stuff, and that can be, it's very stressful and high maintenance. And then plus our family lives were pretty intense. And you know, she met me when I was with my first husband. It didn't last very long, and then I
And
married my
you were
second.
there the day I met Jerry, my husband.
Well, I was there when she met Jerry. That was awesome. That was so cool. That was like love at first sight. Those two. But then you know, my second husband, which happened to be the girl's dad, who I was with for 16 years, which is, I understand the narcissist there. Yep, I've been there. Anyway, he was a difficult individual. And the whole point of people staying in marriages for the kids is bullshit. No, it took me a while to get out of that one. It did.
Absolutely.
It took.
Yeah. Well, how can you, if you're not in love and not having a healthy relationship, how can you be the most healthiest parent? Because you're still a person. I don't think you can function as a perfect parent if you're not having every other balance of life. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just assume.
Well, I was looking at it as a traditional thing of, two parents together is better than one. And I was trying to keep that together. And I kept telling myself, if he ever treated those girls like he treats me, I'm out of here. Because he was a terrible husband. And then, when you're in a narcissistic relationship with someone else, I began to understand and realize he is treating them like sometimes worse than he's treating me, you know? And then I got pissed off at myself. And where have I been as a mother? Oh my God. And we got out of that. And I was probably, that divorce was like something you see on TV. It was awful. It was terrible. We got out of that and I kept trying with my kids and then we moved to Texas. Oh, things we life go through. And then, Karen introduced me to her brother and husband number 3. And that was an intention of him being growing old with him. But from the time I met him, he died 2.5 years later. And Karen used to always apologize to me. And I used to tell her that was his sole relationship with him. And I would tell her, I am so grateful I had that 2.5 years with him. I mean, I would never went any other way. He saved me with his love, and because of his death, I got sober. He died of, alcoholism. Amazing. I mean, that was hard for us during that time. Her brother and all the relation we had, and getting through that and his death. We came back around together. Just keep circling around. That could have killed any friendship right there. It didn't, though.
We had radio silence for a while, but
A little while.
we both dealt with our grieving and we got past it, I think.
Because what we've learned from sessions is that you're always meant to be together to support each other in this lifetime, and that you wanted to have such similar experiences, but such different experiences at the same time, so complement each other. And it does seem like it was very successful. It's still such a beautiful experience as a practitioner to hear how you had planned all of this and what you wanted to experience, and you've all had individually the most epic lives that are so tremendously, I think, would break the most average person. It's so much has gone and happened, and then not only your own individual lives, but then you're so close to each other that you're experiencing two very challenging lifetimes. It's quite, I think you're overachieving. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like when you can actually look back and reflect on everything you've overcome, do you ever think, I just am such an overachiever in life, I'm rocking this?
No, because there was a lot of hard knocks.
Yeah,
it was definitely life.
I kind of thought it used to be, what, you're a survivor of your own life? You used to call yourself a survivor. What, you're a survivor of your own life? That's ridiculous. It's a journey, right? And it's just like, after all this crap, when's the good stuff going to start? But it wasn't until the sessions and having them one-on-one to begin to understand that statement you said, because I did not before. Because you know, if you, I mean, honestly, I've got some friends who've been like Karen has been in her relation with her husband. I mean, what for how many years? 24, 5,
27.
27. Damn, see there? And and I got friends who have been together that long too. And I would have, if I would have stayed with the girl's dad, would have been 28. Um, but that obviously needed to end. Um, but I used to compare myself to other people that had one marriage and thinking that I was a failure because I seemed to go one from one person to another. But it was Dolores Cannon's book, I think, of Legends of the Stars that the in their village they were like there was no marriage. You know, one person was a hunter, one person took care of the kids, one person did this, one person did that. So that one man would have a relationship with one girl and go somewhere else, and he asked if he had any kids, and he said probably.
That's
you
funny.
know, um,
Is
you
this
know, and
is
it's
that
like I think I was living that life.
free love for everyone? Uh,
Yeah.
of Star Crash is that book, I think. And then you're right, because they were saying that there was really no mother father positions. It was you raised the child as you would know who your father is, maybe, but you were all raised together. The men and the woman, and they would do all their roles, and it was purposeful and fantastic. And I remember because Dolores was trying to ask the hunter all of these things about the ways of life, and she was trying to not assume but try to ascertain the roles of every individual person, and he kept responding, well, how would I know? I'm just the hunter. And she was like asking about dynamics, and she was asking if he had a child. I can't remember. Did he have he didn't have a child, but he connected with some man who was someone who was wanting to show interest in being a hunter. So he got an apprentice, which was then like an adoptive taking on. It was a beautiful, beautiful story, and so compelling, the true tribe environment, and it was really interesting. But oh my gosh, every single Dolores Cannon book like this has the gold nuggets towards the end. As soon as the SC comes in and the person can reflect on their whole lifetime, boy, it's like juicy, so fantastic, so phenomenal, the information. So I'm a huge fan, can't you tell?
Yeah.
Mm.
I
So
loved her book.
yeah, I was, well, she kept telling everyone, we were just talking about this today in a lot of the videos she has on YouTube, and she's, people are asking questions. People are asking her, does she believe in ETs? And she's blinking at them blindly, going, read my books. You know, and I remember when I was very new with her, and every video, it seemed like people were asking what I thought were really valid questions. And she was like, read my book, read my book, read my book. And I was thinking, gosh, she's really into merchandise selling, isn't she? She's always about reading her books and buy my book and all this sort of stuff. And I just thought, oh, bless her. But then when I interviewed her 2 years ago through a medium, and she said the same thing to me. And I was like, okay, I'll read your books. If you're still in your afterlife, still telling people to read your books, it's not because of money, it's because of the content. And I finally got it, and I bought all her books, and I'm still just savoring them, because each time I have a bit of growth within my work, it's because I've just picked up a part of her book, or I'm just about to pick up a part of her book, and it's like journey as well. So,
I really feel that what she was really saying also was read my books, do your research, do your inner work, just like you tell some of your clients, go there's 100 videos out there. search and find, do your inner work, listen.
Well, I mean, I haven't really wanted to say this sort of publicly because it just I couldn't wrap my head around it. But in a session, um, over a year ago now, much over a year ago now, Dolores came in and said that I was supposed to pick up where she left off. I'm summarizing, but I just couldn't fathom how. And I think it's only sort of dawning on me now, especially with the stuff this week with Nostradamus is mind blowing. But I couldn't get it. But I mean, I was always telling people like on Facebook and stuff when they were asking questions, I was like, read her books. And like for me being dyslexic, and I also found when I pick up her books, I go, you know how we were just talking at the beginning, how you just leave your body, your mind just goes somewhere else. I wasn't distracted with my washing or anything like that. I would pick up the book, I'd start reading, and I would leave the body. I would journey somewhere and not be reading it. And I'd come back down or come to and realize, where have I just gone? I'm trying to read this book. I've got, 20 minutes for my kids wake up or, whatever. And I kept not being able to read the content, even though I am beyond fascinated with this content. And I had to ask, what is actually happening here? Like, I feel like my reading's got better and I'm desperately wanting to know this information. And they said all the books are really high vibrational. And so I was leaving my body and having another experience and journey, which I really was needing. I was being upgraded. I was having a whole lot of stuff happening while giving myself this time to read a book. So now, now I can go through it more differently. But I found it really strange because I was like, I'm desperately wanting to read this book, and some of them are so gripping that I can read them, but I'm really sensing them from a different. I'm sensing it as a practitioner. I'm sensing it as the client, and I'm sensing it as a person who's very interested in the content. And so they're so rich of all the information, and she's such a blessing and a legend, and I love all her work. But now I am finding that I'm having to repeat the same thing with people who don't want to read her books but have been listening along to the sessions and still stuck at some part. And we have to listen to these sessions, leave them for a little bit, allow ourselves to grow, come back and see how we've evolved, how there is new content that we can apply, or confirmation we have grown in certain ways. But just like her books, the sessions are very multi-layered, and there is high vibration in those sessions. There is healing in those sessions.
Yeah, most definitely. I will say that Karen, I started listening to found out about you and your sessions at probably towards the end of September. We were definitely a week and a half to 2 weeks before October 8th, the day that we're supposed to have a holographic broadcast.
Was it September or October, the broadcast? I thought it was September the 8th.
Yeah, well, no, October the 8th. For us, it was, yeah. I remember, I wrote down my calendar.
I'll tell you what was happening beforehand. I was getting information in March about the shift to New Earth, which was a different planet. And I was like, sorry, what? Pardon me? How am I supposed to apply this? This is bizarre. And so the more I kept hearing it happen and be told again and again and again, 100 sessions later, I had to really process all of that and figure out actually what that will look like. I hadn't read the 3 Ways of Volunteers in the New Earth at all. I was, when I did read it, Dolores was saying that New Earth was here. So I was like, how am I was very confused. How, my beloved Dolores with all her information, I fully respect everything that's written there versus the content I was getting in my own sessions with all of my other different clients. And I had to actually consider that the information I was getting in sessions is the current one, and have to understand, I'm a slow kid, have to understand that the information that she was sharing was appropriate for what she was looking for in the future, which didn't turn out, because humanity still was in its immaturity state to advance itself, I'd say, with love. So I was preparing myself and my clients who were getting the same information, the new earth stuff and shifting. And then we were starting, I felt like I'd really got it. And, I was comfortable with it. It was a few months away. And then, we're doing some fun gossip sessions where we were finding out about celebrities and all that fun stuff. And then in one single session, they were like, we don't mind that you're asking us about the gossip. That's all fine. But there is other stuff we could share with you that is sort of a little bit more pressing. And then I was like, well, what is that? And they're like, oh, the broadcast. Now, the client and I had never heard about a broadcast. This was never anything that we had any prior knowledge to at all. And so, and then I quickly did, I think it was like 5 other clients that hadn't heard the information and asked them about the information, and it was all consistent, and it just was very blowing actually what we were going to be experiencing so soon. And it was huge. And it really put all of the perspective of the new earth and shifting to the back of my mind. I couldn't understand how, if we're going to have a broadcast that big, what we would be doing until December, because I couldn't comprehend it all working, and people keeping above board and not tripping into fear and a whole lot of other stuff. It was very, very hard to process what missing information I was. So anyway, so yeah, it was a fun time. And then the broadcast didn't happen, and then we kept waiting for other stuff to happen. And I was starting to find more and more clients who were following Q and really aware of all this other stuff that I had no comprehension of what the Q movement was or QAnons. I didn't even know I didn't know if anything about politics. I really still don't. I didn't really know very much about Trump, apart from he was a celebrity guy who would fire people and build hotels. I did not know very much, and so listening through sessions to find out he actually, really wants to help humanity. And, while he hasn't always been perfect, I mean, who has been perfect? We've all grown and we've all had to make risks in business and blah, 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 blah. There's no judgment on anyone's past. And I feel like he's actually more better than what we have been told by just the media that have this morbid obsession to destroy him. So very interesting time. So now we've all caught up. What do you feel is going to happen? What's your intuition about how the state of the world is and how it's going to unfold soon?
Well, my thoughts were, after hearing that, healing first, then a reset, but also I'm understanding the collapse of everything, of our economic system, of our education system, of our medical, of politics, of government, everything collapsing, and then a reset. And after listening to that, it's like, well, shit, how long more do we have to be here? Like, I thought we were going to be here a while. And then Karen said, well, if the trees are starting to bud a month early, well, so can people. We can bud sooner too, we can bloom out. And then I wrote this to her. I said, okay, so concerning our soul fragments we learned about, you're an eagle flying over a tree that I am, budding early because I can, and then I also had to say, it's almost like, being a child and wanting to grow up so bad. while being told by our parents to enjoy your childhood because once it's over, it's over. And being that child going, but come on. So, I mean, as far as my intuition about this whole thing, I believe it's going to be a surprise. Um, it's going to happen one day, and it's and this whole thing about raising our vibrations of ourselves and others collectively. Um, you know when it will or why. I mean, I know we know why, but when this whole thing will happen, I am. You know, it could be to me. I don't want to say this, but 2 months to a year or longer. You know, but it's a possibility. Just you got to enjoy our moments now because supposedly we will miss this. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. But yeah, supposedly we'll miss this, you know.
I think we'll miss the opportunities for the experiences that we can have here. So it is about, the physical things that you can do while under the illusion that everything is real, food and dancing and, the emotions, the range of emotions. We could miss having a tantrum. We could miss, a lot of physical and emotional experiences we can have while we're here. So I think the 5D advancement is so big step that the novelty of coming here in the very first place still hasn't been lost on us. The reason why we, while we as volunteers have come here for a purpose, the people, the beings who came here first for that human experience, that they're still enjoying that novelty of being physical in a 3D and all that life has to offer is still pretty. We have to be positive and be like, this is fantastic. We can find joy in this. And when you see it as that perspective, things don't feel so heavy. And, part of not letting ourselves go into low vibration is, not viewing this as a slave planet and, seeing the small beauty in life. So it's hard because you're right. They are wanting us to be adults and take responsibility of our own inner work, because a lot of people who are waiting for others to raise the vibration so we can shift, and they're not actually realizing that this actually is also them. They actually are supposed to be part of this too, to be responsible and raise their vibration enough to add to the collective rather than pulling, because you would be really not disturbed but really disappointed to know how many quotation marks light workers there are that are taking from the collective and disempowering people, adding fear into people, and doing basically the opposite of what we would hope we would be doing for each other. And those are supposed to be the good guys. Those are supposed to be the helpers, So there are people that are draining the energy rather than providing, because they simply haven't done their own inner work. It's not because they signed up contracts for this. They're simply just too stuck.
So each time we ask for help, we're taken from the collective.
If we grow from that help, then we're giving back. If we keep asking help and we don't, it's like you're just sitting there asking for help and you're getting a little buzz, you're getting a little buzz, you're getting a little buzz, you're getting a little vibrational high, but you actually have to do something while you've got that vibrational high. And, you can keep tapping into the universe to keep giving you, positivity or whatever. But if you are just doing nothing with that, you're just using that. A lot of light workers and healers will draw down energy for themselves, and they will not return it back to the earth. They will not provide healing for others. Some healers even use their clients' energy and suck energy from them and And it's like the morals spiritually, like I don't want to get anyone into fear, but use your own gut intuition when dealing with any practitioners, any. If there's any flags, your subconscious is like, pay attention, notice this, speak up for yourself. Because we have to use our intuition more than our brains right now. We have to use our intuition to navigate through life right now. And our intuition doesn't really care about the small details that's going around us. Our intuition is more worried and cares for us. And so, we use our minds to get distracted on the little dramas of everything, the crimes against humanity, or whatever it is that we want to distract ourselves from. But we must try and live as high vibrational as possible and not drag down ourselves or others around us.
I do find when I'm in higher vibration, my intuition comes through more clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Great motivation, right?
Yes, definitely. Because it always leads you down the right path.
Yeah.
The whole reason why we do a lot of talking between us, because, I'm sure you've noticed that when you speak and talk to the like-minded people, you can raise each other's vibration. And then it clears things up a little bit, and intuition comes in, and here comes the messages.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you have to, because we are intuitively connected to our higher selves and subconscious, we get a sense of it so strongly what's happening. But when we actually have to verbalize it into words and then speak it out, then we are reformulating it and working through it. So I bet you guys probably speak to each other often, and you're working through your feelings of what you're feeling while trying to muddle through it and match. It's like a match game. The words matches your feelings or your intuition. And as we were talking about before, how females are not trusting other females more so than males when we were younger, simply because I really believe that naturally females are so much more intuitive than males for being the roles that we were supposed to be playing, because we could choose, when we write our contracts, we choose whether we want to be male or female, and we make all those choices for ourselves, because it will help us with the experiences and the roles we want to play in that lifetime. And so we all sort of discovered the reason why we were distrusting of females was because we can pick up and read their intentions before anyone bats an eyelid. And so, we've always been intuitive, but have we respected ourselves enough to honor it?
No,
Sometimes I'm getting better at that respect and honoring the intuition. But I do have a question. Why do you suppose men don't exercise their intuition as much as we do as females?
Because they need to live off instinct. So
Okay.
instinct, I guess this is what they're saying to me is instinct, but isn't instinct intuition? There must be a difference.
Yes.
But I don't know what it is.
No. It's just inbred. An instinct is like automatic knowing, and you just react.
So it's reaction rather than knowing. So instinct is an action or reaction. Whereas,
yeah, because when I think about animals and their instincts,
yeah,
they just do because that's what they know.
Yeah. I remember the first QHHT session where I was the client, the second, and I was talking to my higher self, and it was referring to me still using my monkey brain in my monkey suit. So,
that's hilarious.
Good way. Any last thoughts or anything you want to share?
I am just proud of all the people that you've invited into the chat. They all seem very supportive of themselves and each other, willing to, share their thoughts, good or bad, and grow from it. I love seeing all that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, we're creating more extensions of the two Karens' friendship, isn't it? We're already all like-minded, and we profoundly resonate with the content of the information, and we're all trying to be a better humanitarians, not only to help ourselves so we can help the people that are in our lives, but also be part responsible to help the collective.
Yes. And ask for help. I want to leave on that thought too. Don't ever feel like you cannot ask another soul or your spirit guides for help. We're all there for you. You're not in it alone.
Yeah, I love that. That's what they always say, that alone we're always here, but they can't interfere with our free will. So when we ask for them, they will always respond. It may not be exactly how we assume or hope or need, but they're there and they're doing exactly what we do need. So I love that.
Sounds like that Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need.
Yeah. Well, I believe that's what we need every single time.
Yeah.
So that's why that's how they roll. I love that. The other Karen has gone.
She just went on a quick errand, very quick. She will return like in 5 seconds.
And so you want to connect with each other because you experienced that tremendous snow event. Did you try to burn the snow like everyone else?
No. I think it was Monday, the first day of the power outage. We didn't have cell phone service either. The generators that are backups for the cell towers, they're not winterized. So they froze up too. So we were just like.
How long was the power cut for?
We got ours back Thursday. So we were out Monday, Tuesday, 3 days for us. There are other parts of the state that it did go longer.
I'm surprised people didn't refer that to as your 3 days of darkness.
I actually did. It's funny that you bring that up. My 3 days of darkness, it was.
I remember that being talked about, that some parts of the world will experience 3 days of darkness, but others wouldn't.
Yeah, but then they also said that it takes 3 days of emotions to balance. Like first of all, hearing about the crimes against humanity, it takes 3 days to kind of get over that profound shock and all of those emotions to get back into a stable, ideally, okay, I accept that, I understand that. How do we move forward from that? So it's about a shift of consciousness, I think, when it's a profoundly shakeable one. What I was going to say, which one of you had the one-on-one session with me where you asked about the oil, and they said in Texas, and they said it's been highly protected? I can't remember what
it was me. I asked about that hole punch cloud, and you told me that there was a ship above the cloud that was protecting the area because the oil resources were they may be sabotaged, contaminated.
Right. Well, kind of it was.
Yeah, they were definitely, and yeah, the whole state was shut down. Out here, they extract it from the ground, and then as you go towards the coast, they refine it and make it into usable products.
So what was in the because the snow, you couldn't burn it, right? So what is in the water that you can't burn snow, but if your oil is in the ground, when that snow gets absorbed into the ground and goes underneath, what will happen to that oil?
Well, snow, as it sits, emits nitrogen, and that can be combustible. And when they drill, it's not as it's still dangerous, but when they go to the fracking process where they fracture the shell, the rock, to get all of the oil that's trapped in it, they use explosives to fracture the earth, and that's where some of the earthquakes come from. So that would be problematic, yes.
So do you think what's being put into your ear is something that's kind of unflammable? So therefore it's going to protect your oil. And so when it turns into that snow, when people try to do that, they notice that compound then. Because another session I did, there was who when they asked about that snow, they said, yeah, there's heaps of stuff in your ear, yeah, you can prove it, but
I think a part of that too, because I don't know if it came from your session or if I picked it up somewhere else, that if it was weather manipulation that caused this event, there's chemicals that froze with the snow. And of course, they'll be released back into the environment. And who knows what's in all those chemicals they would have used.
Well, you just reminded me about your one-on-one session where it said that the oil was going to be contaminated. And so whatever we've seen that whatever's in that snow is contamination, because it's certainly not good air, is it?
Right.
Water, I should say. So yeah, I guess that's part of the big
part of their plan, maybe. Yes.
yeah.
I think you were connecting some dots there, Joe.
Yeah, wow. This is why I think a lot of people are going to appreciate listening back to the sessions, that even if I've listened to them, to rehear them now with a little bit of time difference, not only for their own personal growth, but just as we've all got more accustomed to this conversation, how much more richer the information would be when you listen back to it. Because I mean, one of my clients from last year was saying, and out in her session, it was uncovered about the lockdowns and the virus coming, and that we would change quite profoundly. But it wasn't said COVID virus thing. It wasn't. It was so weirdly ended off that session when I was like, "Is there anything else you want to say?" And I had totally forgotten about it because I was like so new at that point. I was just like, wow, that sounds really epic. I had no idea what that's referring to. And I always wanted to go back to that session. But then you just get swamped with other sessions, so you can't really go back. And it's kind of like, I had this like feeling when I was younger and as in my practitioner career, when I got information from a certain person, I felt like I needed to expand on it more with that client and not ask other people. For some reason, I didn't realize you could ask anyone, and get that sort of information. But so I was waiting for her to have another session, and then lockdowns happened and all this sort of stuff. But she was listening back to it later on, and she was like, "Oh, well, we were warned about this kind of thing." And yeah, interesting. But she's still processing that information, and her own session. So the first sessions always seem to be the big chunk of the big stuff that's still being held in the body, emotionally and physically. And so those first sessions are so profound. And then we love doing the second sessions because it's the fun and it's the other bits and pieces.
I know my first one was pretty intense. That would be the word I'd use. Very intense. Lots of emotions for me.
Well, that was, that was, I sort of didn't really plan my career to be doing any of this woo-woo stuff, let's say, because it does, while it's true, it feels very strange. So thinking about when I was so happy to have my life as being a potter and being creative and doing all that sort of stuff. So when I developed from being constantly either practitioner or a client in this work, and then I started channeling, like I call it channeling. I don't really know what else to call it. But I feel like it's still working in that state of when you're in a session.
I very much agree. In fact, I have to be honest, I like the channeling better.
Right. Nice. Well, that's good. Good feedback. Thank you. Well, it's so interesting. So then when I hear other people saying that they're a channeler, and I get sent all these videos to watch because whatever someone else is saying is incredible, blah 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 blah. And I don't really have time to listen to anyone else's stuff really, because part of it sort of irks me when I'm seeing people give disinformation and they're limited, and I feel like they're ego based and they're wanting to sell. I was going to say wanting to sell books, but t-shirts and all that sort of stuff. But they don't have the true highest information of integrity, or information I know. That's not ego. That is me knowing the value and the content and the worth of the information that is provided freely in the sessions. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not. There is no catch. I mean, yes, you can have a session with me, but you can have a session with thousands of other practitioners. I don't care. So I just want people to get their profound help and their healing any way they can. So I don't know. I don't even know what I would call it, but I just want to help people.
And you're doing an awesome job. We appreciate you so much. I mean, I will say that when we came across your sessions, like I said, about the end of September, we both agreed, we completely resonated and could feel the energy and knew to be true, because there was nothing else that we were experiencing that was quite like that. And became addicted every time. Ooh, there's a session posted. Hurry, listen to it.
I think people get addicted to the higher vibrations and the energy that's given off in the sessions, which is fantastic because that's just another bonus layer that everyone's getting. So I think we are, they know exactly what to do. And I feel like there was a part of me, kind of like with Karen, resisting to go with the flow of things, and I still wanted to have control. I still wanted to do exactly how Dolores was sort of doing stuff. And I was listening to what QHHT Academy is saying now, and all these other big practitioners, and how we should be managing ourselves and what we should be doing, and jumping all through these hoops. And I was trying to be the most diligent little girl ever and do it by the book. And it got to the point where I was getting told off by them up there in the other dimensions. And I realized, what the heck am I doing? Why am I so focused on pleasing other people's egos and other people's businesses, which are truly, in some respects, limiting humanity quite profoundly? And so I had to make that decision. Do I want to have my correct moral compass to help humanity properly and go against some of the rules and go against some of the processes of some certain things? And I had to want to help humanity more than be popular with other practitioners. And, it's kind of killed a lot of friendships because a lot of practitioners have come in for other purposes. And it has been an interesting experience, but I've respected myself. It was not an easy journey, but I had to respect myself and honor the people who need this work. Because if I was going to limit the information, if I was not going to share what I needed to share, which I had this desire to get out, because it just seemed like they were so urgently pushing this, I would feel like I would be part of the problem and causing more disinformation for humanity. And I have heard before, if you've got a skill set and you're not using it, that's that is as bad as something really bad. They don't say bad or good or anything like that. But if we've got a skill set, we must use it correctly and appropriately for the betterment of humanity, not for egos, not for entertainment, not for likes and subscribers and for followers and all that nonsense. You really can see people getting so locked into their own belief systems of entertaining their fans versus actually being morally responsible and to the spiritual information.
Very, very appreciative of you following your intuition and your integrity as you did. It is, you can feel your heart, your emotions, your belief, your trust, your sincerity, it's all there. And it comes through. Anyone who's an empath can definitely feel that, and it's definitely there. Very much appreciate that you went on your own, what you felt right, and listened to your intuition along with your own team, because as you know, it's sometimes really difficult to go against what the logical mind says compared to what our intuition spirit team says.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, now I can look back at it and, ask in sessions and know that it is, it's all life purposeful and, it was always supposed to be like this. But, it was not such an easy path because, there was many obstacles and there was so many opportunities to kind of give up, even just sort of earlier this month when I, was shown a really questionable channel's information. And it just felt so overwhelming that all these, like 50,000 people were listening to this and going into fear. And it's like, oh my gosh, like how could, like all of those people going into fear, that feels like my complete work, a body of work is like neutralized because, one person's nonsense has triggered more people than would ever be listening to my, is like it's an energy balance. And I just keep thinking sometimes it's so hard. Like, is this making any impact? I hope so, but then I sort of feel like there's so much content. I can just go away now and people can just keep listening back to the old stuff because they keep saying no one can really, everyone can listen to all of the content, which is, hundreds of hours now, I'm assuming. I have no idea. But to be able to apply that and make that routine and live life as they recommend, it's another thing altogether anyway. So just sharing with you ladies.
Yeah, well, I do have a question for you. You asked, well, I answered it, but Karen didn't. What's your beliefs and thoughts, intuition tell you about what's to come, and for all of us?
I don't have a timeline. I don't think it's going to be years. I really am thinking that by June we'll either get a more definitive feeling on either more disclosure, which will prompt people into awakening more. The med beds that I've heard about that are being manufactured, actually some in Texas, I think they're going to be stingy with them. They're going to only share it with people that can pay for it. It's going to turn into a selfish, greedy act as opposed to helping humanity heal emotionally and physically. And somehow that will be stopped and put back on course. Other than that, I don't have a strong feeling about when we will be able to move off this earth. I think some of it does depend on Gaia. If she gets tired and says, I'm done, then our friends are going to have to react to, evacuate us in a fast and safe manner. And that could happen. She could finally just say, guys, I'm done. I can't wait any longer. So we'll have to see if that plays out. But I've had that feeling that that could happen. So that's where I'm at for the future.
That is so vulgar to think that people with medbed technology would do that. Like that is just the most, that's the definition of what's wrong with humanity, isn't it? Like you can only, if you can afford it, you get it. But then
Well, that's our pharmaceutical companies do that. The insurance companies are, right in bed with them. I'm sure they get kickbacks and what have you.
it's horrible.
So
All greed, power and greed.
Yeah, greed. I mean, it's I mean, I know we all sort of, scoff and poo-poo religion, but, some of the core values that they try to teach us is still quite true. While I still feel like the majority of some religions, look how I'm covering my bases, the majority of some. I feel like some religions, let's just recorrect what I'm saying, because I've got my conscious mind, so I should actually be focusing on what I'm saying rather than when I'm in a channel, I just let them say whatever they want. The religions, part of their demeanor and purpose is to disconnect us from going within and to not allow us to have that empowerment. It's so oxymoron. A religion that's supposed to love us and empower us and support us is disconnecting us from our own divinity. But I mean, nothing new, but I want to add my feelings into what's going to happen.
Good.
There is opportunities for us to shift. There's a few dates that they are saying, depending on how humanity is going to react, depending on a whole lot of things. They aren't convinced yet that humanity, with all of the toys, all of the med beds, and all of the financial structures, if that's going to appropriately help humanity, because they know that we're still primates, and so we're so addicted to materialism. We're so addicted to money being the equal of our influence and power. We've had so much lack of money. So when we have this financial reset, I can't see the majority of humanity using that with integrity to empower themselves with spirituality and fully feed their soul and raise their consciousness. I feel like there's going to be one or more parties. I feel like I've actually got my humor. I feel like I'm 12 with my humor. I feel like really silly, even though I've just turned 45. So sorry, I'm just gonna add that in. So I just don't know how humanity is suddenly going to mature with health resets and financial resets. I just don't see that. And I can't imagine, as we did a session yesterday, I can't imagine people who have suddenly realized all of these events have happened in the past, and they're now suspicious of a few things. I can't imagine them wanting to go into a med bed that's going to remove all their trauma from them, which would physically make them instantly a different person. Like emotionally, mentally, you're going to, go in there with a lot of hangouts and a lot of stuff, and then you're going to be quite profoundly changed. It's going to be, potentially, maybe they just do a small little personality. I don't know how it's going to go, but something with my intuition and something with my common sense is just not. I'm just not seeing it being this fantastic solution for humanity. I think the ideas of it's very exciting for many people, and that's the only thing keeping them positive.
Right. Well, the impatience part of me is asking, do you think that with all that could happen, or what, as what Karen said with Gaia, maybe saying enough's enough, and that we have timelines here, but our team members don't really. I mean, with all that in mind, do you feel like we'll still be here a year from now?
Not a year from now. It's
Well, good.
you're definitely getting, the dates that we're getting is this year. All three of them are this year. So it's, again, opportunity window after opportunity window. This is where they're seeing the most likely of humanity in a higher happiness. If we all suddenly became really happy and grateful for the air we can breathe, and if we only focused on the air that we're breathing and how great our bodies feel, and I don't know, like maybe that would do a big shift. But I'm very mindful of still some people who have influential roles still wanting to call upon group meditations, which we all know have done interesting things to humanity beforehand and not necessarily helped us in the right direction. I mean, it's been helpful for one thing, but it's kind of, I want to say cock blocked, but that's not appropriate. But you know, like it's somehow
But a perfect analogy.
ladies suddenly comes together. Yeah, it is interesting. That is a really interesting. We mustn't distract ourselves with living the best we can now. And this is what I think a lot of people are guilty of, is giving up trying to focus on their 3D while just waiting anticipation for the shift. And so a lot of relationships, a lot of you know, a lot of physical. I mean, I totally let go of my physical. I didn't care. I was like, I'm gonna go to New Earth in my fat pants, and I'm gonna be so happy about it.
Back to people and humanity and how they would treat their gift of financial freedom.
Mhm.
I think of my mother. She grew up in the Depression. They had nothing. She was lucky if she got a bottle of fingernail polish for Christmas. When she was older, her fetish was shoes. She never had enough shoes. And I can see people blowing through their money, some of them, like, you know, burning a hole in your pocket. But I can also see some, like my mom, hoarding certain items that they never had.
Well, I think everyone's going to hoard something that makes them feel. The idea would be they would want to purchase something that can satisfy that lack. So yeah, anything that they've been traumatized by in their childhood that they feel like it will complete them. But you know, you could buy a whole you know 5 shoe companies, and she would still never get that fulfillment.
She wouldn't be secure yet.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have enough feet. She'd have to turn.
That's true.
But this, you know, like would become an obsession. People would need to get materialism. And if you've got this reset, who's making all those products that we rely on so easily now? Would people really be going and doing their work? If it's not the most joyful job, who's going to be making and creating and producing some of the basics?
We'll have to go to Kay's village where everybody's assigned to be a hunter or gatherer or something.
Yeah.
Be good with that.
You'd be good with that?
Mhm. I've been wanting to get off the grid and become a shaman Indian, move out somewhere, New Mexico, Arizona, and change my name, lose my phone. I was saying things like that before we found you, Joe. It's like I'm ready just to, you know, live off the land.
And just out of interest, what would your new name be?
I never thought of it. Karen and I were trying to think of a name, renaming ourselves. What would our new name be? It wouldn't be Karen K.
We actually did names a long time ago. I don't remember
That's
them.
what we came up with. We were trying to come up with some names. I think we came up with something like Star Child or I forgot.
Yeah,
Something real generic, nothing unique.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to start thinking of, if we were going to name ourselves and empower ourselves the most, what would that look like? What would that be? Maybe we need to start honoring ourselves more with our skill sets that we do have.
I would call Karen Galactical Commander.
Yeah.
That's what I believe that her role was before she came here. As far as me, I don't know. I would has to be something to do with healing, you know.
Yes, definitely healing. You're a healer and a seer.
Yeah. Heal seal.
Heal seal. I'm a sealer of healers.
Healer. There we go.
I just want to you ladies something that was really peculiar today, and I don't know if you've heard or come across this. But someone was saying when the Nasara or Jasara, I can't remember, and I don't care which, starts off, everyone must go to their birth country to be able to claim it. And they were sort of saying it's so good because, so many countries are, overrun with people, foreigners. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, first of all, I was a bit triggered. I was like, is this the most racist, like, anti-refugee comment on the planet? But anyway, I had to get over myself. But I was like, wait, this does not make sense. If we're going to reset into digital currency, why would we need to travel to be in the place that we're born? Thinking, just because you're born somewhere doesn't mean you have an affiliation with it. You have, obviously, right now, we are all very connected to where we're living since we've had the lockdowns, or we have a fantasy or an idea of where we want to move to. But have you heard having to go back to your home country to get access to your digital finances?
I have not.
Have not. I have heard that the digital finances would come through phones, and for those who don't have phones would be given phones.
Well, the thing that I find really obnoxious with all this reset talk is, like, it kind of sounds like how they're sort of selling it to us is, oh, great, that sounds like more freaking control. Like when I said to some woman, like, well, how is everyone, everyone's going to get all this money. They're going to buy mansions. We're all going to run out of mansions. Like, how does that, it's going to just be ridiculous. And then she was like, oh, no, it's very controlled. You get a monthly payments. I'm like, who's controlling this? What new system is going to be controlled? I mean, we've already come from one controlling system. Obviously, we know we can't, we're not going to be mature enough. Or would we? Would we be mature enough to have lump sums versus payouts? Because, we can just blow our payouts waiting for next month. I don't quite know what, how humanity is going to cope with it. But I do know there's many TV programs about people who have won big lotto numbers and amounts. It's the lottery. And, it's been the worst thing for them ever. They've lost their friends, their families. They have created new habits for themselves that aren't very good for them.
I agree. I've seen that too. But you know what I thought would probably be the best thing as far as a, in quotation marks, financial reset is a forgiven debt system rather than, just forgiven debt.
Clean slate. Let's start over.
A complete, like, mortgage is gone, rent's gone. Somehow we don't have to pay our utilities anymore. Anyone that has IRS issues, they're gone.
Speaking of all that, why are we the only creature on Earth that has to pay to live here?
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, getting back to that that monkey body, monkey mind.
Sorry.
No, you're very right. And I like that idea, resetting the debt, because I still have a student loan, like I still, it is ridiculous.
So it would make more sense to me if all payments are taken away. It's not like you're given all kinds of lotto richness money, but that would keep people working and not taken off, as much, as just all of a sudden being wealthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love that. That actually could be a fantastic solution. Who do we get in contact with to give them that suggestion?
It makes sense to me. Because that you still need to make some type of money to go to grocery store and things like that. Gas for your car possibly, and.
But then, if all the systems are collapsing, one of them is the food industry, because it's so corrupt. So, really, what are we going to be eating? And we do know there's profound food shortages that we have been hidden from. And so, there's so much that is just in our near future. It's so unsustainable for us to still be here, living here like it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. I am not a gardener. I can't grow anything. I'd be in trouble. I'd have to find someone who could grow. Anything I try to grow, I kill. I
Yeah.
can buy flowers, you put them in water, and they'll stick around for a while. But yeah,
Well, this is
I'm
why.
not a good shot. I'm not a good hunter, and I don't like killing animals anymore. So it'd have to be plant stuff, and I'd have to. I mean, to me, it goes back to community. You know, one person's better with children. One person's better at
Mm.
helping with the elderly. One person's good at cooking. Another one's good at gardening. Another one, I mean, in a community of such that, that to me, that'd be ideal. Wipe out of all debts and come together as a community. Then you got communication finally.
Mm. Well, I mean, all trades have declined in all countries, right? Like, I mean, as varsity and systems have been, or in technology fields, we've got a huge workforce that are, focusing on not on hands labor and skill sets, and our basic infrastructures now with our modified weather systems, as Texas has unfortunately had to experience, we don't have structures that can cope with something like that, apart from maybe Iceland and Sweden, who already kind of get that. But yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but thank you, ladies, for sharing your time with us and sharing such personal experiences. I am sure that there are many people who can resonate with your journey.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you.
for being
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Thanks for all the love and support that you offer each and every one of us. We greatly appreciate you.
Oh,
Very grateful.
yeah, you guys are so sweet and wonderful. And when I did come across the two beautiful Karens, it did fill my heart with joy knowing that you guys were just so sweet and you were sharing your experiences with this work that I still was, still processing. And you've always been so kind and gracious, and you're just such beautiful gifts to humanity. And I know that because I've done both your sessions, so I am not boosting up egos. You're freaking amazing, and I want to swear and say it more profoundly because I just feel like I've got such an insight into your incredible lives, so deeply and profoundly. And that's what gives me such great hope, is that, there are some huge, huge, huge beings here, still having their human experiences and living and experiencing and growing amongst the rest of us, and we're all really here to help humanity. So we need to get our perspectives right, and just give it this collective, last impactful, highly intentional raising of the consciousness, because it's now.
Yes, beautifully said. Very grateful.